So when they were down with 4 minutes left, when it was 26-14, did you think they could come back realistically the way they were playing?
No, I mean, it wasn't a probability, I don't think. You kind of looked at it and said, okay, it's not over yet, but something, you got to go. Like, there's no more messing around. And then they scored that first touchdown so fast.
Yes.
Like in a minute something, right?
Yeah.
And then you started thinking, okay, I mean, they got a chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. And John, we play games like that sometimes. 57 minutes, you're getting your ass kicked. And then all it takes is one play, right? And then you start to get a little bit of momentum and have a chance and have a shot. And that's what happened yesterday. I mean, it went from almost like a disastrous type of day. That would have been a bad loss.
Yes.
Right? And it turns out to be a great Sunday, right? The Vikings lose. The Seahawks lose.
I
You're
know.
like, not only were we, scared out of our pants for 57 minutes, but we came up looking really, really good. So
I know.
It was just, it was odd. I mean, I don't think anybody thought that this was going to be a blowout type game. Division games, I think, rarely are. They're just always tough. They always come down to probably the last, couple series or two. This defense, for how bad it felt everything kind of was yesterday, I kind of woke up this morning thinking, it wasn't all that bad. I mean, anytime you turn the ball over 4 times, obviously, most of the time it's going to be very lopsided. But
Yeah.
I thought the defense actually did a decent job yesterday. I mean, even off the 4 turnovers, they allowed 10 points off of those. Like, that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And the offense, obviously, we know that, I mean, I think they were only on the field for not even 20 minutes of that game.
Correct.
It was dominated time of possession by Chicago. But they had a couple chances late, and they took advantage. And Dan Campbell always talks about, his reliable guys and his dependable players, and they have to step up in big-time moments and make big-time plays.
And they did.
And that's what happened in the last 3 minutes. And it was a great comeback.
And Stoney, you started off by asking if they played that way, did we think they were going to come back? If they kept playing the way that they did through the first 57 minutes, there was no chance they were going to come back.
Correct.
But then they hit J-Mo. They score quickly. And then they come back. And if you've got a player like Jared Goff, we've said this time and time again this year, a guy that has had the ultimate highs. He's been in the Super Bowl. He's also been a guy that his coach left him for dead. He's had those momentum swings in his career, in games, and he knows that it's about the next play. It's about the next series. Even though he threw 3 picks, at the end of the game, he finally came through, put together 2 drives, and went out there and won a game for the Lions.
Yeah, we talk about his mental toughness and resiliency all the time, right?
Yeah.
Normally it's after 1 pick. And it's like,
Yes, it's
okay,
a touchdown
then he gets
after a
back
pick.
going.
Yeah.
Yesterday, it just so happened to be after 3 of them.
Yeah, and he almost had the 4th would have been a pick
I mean,
6
there
if that
could
guy
have been
doesn't.
4th, there could have been 5. I mean,
I
it
know.
could have been
Yeah.
a completely disastrous day. But, man, I just go back and this team they're finding different ways to win, right? Last week we saw it was a shootout. We just got to keep scoring, right? It's one of those games where we just got to find a way to keep counterpunching. Yesterday was, man, it's not going our way. It's rough. We got to find a way to put together a comeback. And that's sign of a good team, right? I mean, we feel like we say it every single week. You find different ways to win. When the offense isn't clicking, defense, you got to step up. When the defense, Chargers game, offense, you got to go step up. You got to go win us a game. And, man, that's just it's a sign of a really, really good football team. Now, do I think yesterday was some great win? No, and that was probably a C- game.
Right, but that happens in this league. You guys
how
know
many
more than
times
anybody.
in the past did it's like you make one mistake and it's
Right.
like, yep, that play right there, that killed us. I mean, you're making so many mistakes and you're playing bad. Yesterday, I played bad for most of that game.
Yes, they were
and you're
awful.
still winning games.
They
I mean,
were
that's just
awful.
Yeah, and that's a sign of a really good team. And that could be a win. You're going to face more adversity down the road.
Yes.
We all know that. That could be a win where you look back on and say, man, we got that in our bank. We know we can do it, right? We already did it once. We know we can do it again. And I think that gives you confidence when you hit some of those tough patches that you're going to face more and more down the road.
And it's all about the lessons that you learned. We talked about it last year. Dan Campbell talked about that loss at Minnesota and how it affected them. This is a young football team, and momentum doesn't carry over, but the lessons learned does. And when you have moments that you look back after you go, 8 wins in your final 10 games, but you miss out on the playoffs, How did we miss out? Well, we missed out because we lost a game that we should have won. That would have got you in the playoffs. Now you're looking at it going, how do we find a way to win these games? Dan Campbell said last week after the game, never be ashamed about a win.
No.
Right.
It's a shootout. It's a win. If you play bad, but at the end of the game, you score one more than they do, I don't care how you get there. We can make corrections. I'd rather do it after a win than a loss.
And they're learning from their mistakes, like in the past too. I mean, I got the vibe last week against the Chargers that when it came down to that 4th and 2 late in the game, and it was like you can kick a field goal or be aggressive and go for it, my mind immediately went back to the last time when they played Minnesota last year.
Yeah.
Because they kicked a field goal in that game. They got conservative. We all know how that came out, that ended. And Dan Campbell beat himself up after that game. He's like, man, I regret that. I hate that I made that play call. The players were all like, I wish I would have told coach we should have gone for it. That, to me, my mind reverted back to that and said, he's learning, man. He remembers how costly that call was in the game last year. Guess what? He gets a chance again this year. He makes the right call. It's all a sign of just kind of the maturation as a head coach, I think, too. And the players, you've been through a lot. You've been through a lot of adversity. There's really nothing that this team hasn't faced yet, and now they're finding out that they can handle it.
He called his timeouts wisely. The clock management was terrific. 248-539-9797. I believe they're 16-4 in their last 20 games. I think only the Chiefs equal that or a little better. That's going into tonight. And here's a great stat. Since 1932, no NFL team with a +3 turnover margin and 40 minutes time of possession had ever lost that game. Teams were 48-0 until the Bears lost today. This is from a Chicago perspective, obviously. It's not an overstatement to call this a historic loss, or for our sake, a historic win. They don't have to be beautiful.
Yeah.
They won the game. That's the most important thing. Yeah, we have picked apart. The quarterback didn't play well for most of the game. Stupid Brian Branch, he played really well for a while with tackles for loss. 2 horrific penalties on third down stops in that game that gave them first downs, that kept drives moving. They did not play well, but when they had to in the clutch, J-Mo makes the catch. The defense holds up. Eberflus gets a little thank you note for some of their play calling, but still, that drive was incredible.
And TJ, you and I have both played against guys that you knew when the game was on the line, you better bring your A game, or else they were going to have a moment like Hutch. That was the first time in the course of his young career where you had to have a play made. And he went out there and just beat a tackle one-on-one, sacked, fumble, safety. That was a huge moment for Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, and it's finding a way to finish, right? I know that the defensive line was probably frustrated that entire game.
Right.
So was the offense. The offense got their chance, right? They came back. They bounced back. Defense, somebody step up and make a play.
Special teams, Reynolds fumbled on the kick.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody messed up.
Big-time players make big-time plays, right? And that was a big-time play, and I don't care the rest of the game. That's gonna let you walk out of that building with a lot better taste in your mouth, knowing that, hey, at least we finished the game. Now, like you kind of mentioned from the Chicago point, thank you for kicking the field goals, right, on 4th and 1, and you're up 9, and you kick a field goal, I think, on 4th and 3. And
I think it was more 4th and 5. But
it was still like, man, you're a 3-7 team, or 3-6.
Well,
the
4th and 1, it did make it a 2-possession game. I understood that, but I would have probably gone for it. The other one, you're right. 4th and 5, and they kicked a field goal to go up 26-14.
Right, you're up 9. You go up 9-12, right? I mean, it's So I was in that moment. I was like, okay, that was the first moment where I was like, okay, the door is open, right? If they would have gone for it there and even extended that drive, because that was like a 7 or 8 minute drive. They started throwing 5. Even if they would have picked up a first down, it would have been like, oh, man, we're not going to have enough time for this comeback.
They started the drive with 13 minutes left on the clock, and then the field goal was with 4:20 left.
Yeah. So after that field goal,
45 seconds.
After that field goal, I was like, okay, we've got a shot, but you've got to go fast. You got to do it the right way, and they did that. I mean, 6 plays, a minute, 10 seconds, whatever it was.
Yeah.
That was just, I mean,
it's a game we'll remember for a long time.
And you make the corrections Monday and you figure it out and you find a way to get better. But the bottom line is you got to win. And that's just, man, it's just so different than what we've always talked about in the past with this. We've been the team that everything goes our way and we find a way to mess it up, right?
There's a historical stat that never happened in football before.
Whatever could go wrong goes wrong, usually for us, man. And it's just like, it just feels like you're living right.
Right.
You know,
I know
it feels like you're living right
we know
now.
Stafford had a few comeback wins like the one against Dallas, but I had to go back to 1991, the year that they made the NFC Championship game. They were behind to Minnesota by like 20-7, something like that. And with like 8 minutes left in the game, they came back and won the game. And the next thing you know, they're in the NFC Championship game. It was incredible. Yesterday was just unbelievable. The feeling in this city right now is this team can't lose. I mean, if you lose a game, you're going to be upset. And look, they're not going to go 15-2, people. This is awesome. They could be 9-2 Thanksgiving. And there's that other football game, up the road in 40 miles from downtown, Michigan, Ohio State, the game. I mean, where is there a better place for sports fans to be than here?
I think there's a feeling right now that this team has an identity and they're sticking to that identity. Like, we know who they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We know that they're a tough physical team. We know they're a gritty team. We know they're mentally tough. And that's just that's something that I think is rare. Teams sometimes develop it late in the season. Some teams start with it early and then kind of fade off. Like, this team to me just they represent the city. You know what I mean? And the people love it. And even yesterday, I mean, I didn't really see that many people leaving.
Neither did I.
The field. I mean, and even after the last couple touchdowns, that place was just rocking, man. After the sack, safety was awesome, but they're just sticking to their identity, and that's something that I admire a lot.
Did you like the punt?
Yeah,
the punt. I mean, he nailed that thing. I didn't see where it landed. It looked like it was going to the upper deck, man. But he put a foot in that one.